School Committee, June 4th, today's the 4th, right? June 4th, 2026. We're going to start this meeting off in a little different way. Hopefully people will enjoy this. I'm going to say a few words. Education, at its best, is about inspiration. An English teacher inspires you to become a writer or an English teacher. A math or a science teacher inspires you to study engineering or become a math or science teacher. A woodworking teacher inspires you to become a cabinet maker or just embrace working with wood as a lifetime hobby. An instrumental music teacher inspires you to aspire to first violin at the Boston Symphony. Education at its best is about inspiring a love of learning or doing something well across the myriad of disciplines. So, to begin tonight and to honor the best of education, we're going to begin our school committee meetings with moments of inspiration. And then we'll get down to business. But tonight, we are honored to be inspired by Base Value, the an a cappella group at Brookline High School, directed by our most talented human being, Michael Driscoll, who's been doing this work at Brookline High School for 23 years. So, everyone, Base Value, let's go.
L is for the way you look at me. O is for the only one I see. V is very, very extraordinary. E is even more than anyone that you adore can love. Is all that I can give to you. Love is more than just a game for two. Two in love can make it. Take my heart and please don't break it. Love was made for me and you. L is for the way you look at me. O is for the only one I see. V is very, very extraordinary. E is even more than anyone that you adore can love. Is all that I can give to you. Love is more than just a game for two. Two in love can make it. Take my heart and please don't break it. Love was made for me and you. L is for the way you. And O is for the only. V is very, very extraordinary. E is even more than anyone that you adore can love. Is all that I can give to you. Love is more than just a game for two. Two in love can make it. Take my heart, but please don't break it. Love was made for me and love was made for me and love was made for me and you. Love.
Congrats, Mom.
All right, what do you think?
Amazing.
Not bad?
I shed several tears.
Brookline High School. I guess we're on. I want to thank Kenny Kozal, who's the coordinator of Performing Arts K through 12. He helped set this thing up with Michael Driscoll. They do amazing work. They've been doing amazing work for years and years. Go. Okay. Everybody okay? Everybody hanging in there? So we're going to start with the consent agenda, which is number 2 on the agenda today. Any questions on any of these items on the consent agenda? If not, we can vote to accept the consent agenda, starting with Laura.
Do we have to move it first?
Yeah, we should move
We
it.
have a motion.
I'll move it.
Donna moves it,
I'll second it.
Jesse seconds it. Laura?
Yes.
Faiza?
Yes.
Jesse?
Yes.
Sarah?
Yes?
Donna?
Yes.
Carolyn?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well, so consent agenda is approved. Thank you very much. Okay, next, we have Adithi Jayashankar, who's been with us for the entire year, and it's a little sad that you are completing your work. Oh my God, we have a little thing for you. Anyway, one of the accomplishments that Adithi performed this year was she served on the search committee that resulted in the hiring of Superintendent Bella Wong. Thank you very much, because you were an active participant in that. So I just want, before you say anything, I want to thank you for your inspiring work, and just ask you, what are you doing next year? What's your future?
I'm going to Georgetown University in Washington, D.C. to study government and economics.
All right, okay. Anybody want to say anything to Adithi?
I will.
Please.
I just want to thank you for your work and your contributions and your presentations and your viewpoints, contributing your views and your knowledge of the school and the students, and your lovely presence here with us. And I love our student reps, and it's been really wonderful to have you. And I wish you really good luck in your future endeavors. Come back and visit us.
Anybody else? Sarah?
I've been so pleased to have you here. I've been so impressed by you. And I think that it just makes it all that much more real for us because we're in the business of seeing how students grow and who they become. And the fact that you can speak to things of consequence so eloquently, we just kind of assume that the whole student body is like that because you are like that. But you know, it does play out that whenever we get a chance to interact with a BHS student, that they're very sharp. And so it's just been great to have you with us to make this work feel that much more real. So thank you.
Any other words of appreciation? Donna?
I also want to join in saying thank you. I've enjoyed, you were my school committee table neighbor, so it was always nice to look over and see your smiling face, and you have such a calm demeanor. And I really enjoyed hearing your perspectives and your insights from the high school. I think you really brought voice. You brought voice from what's happening there, and we appreciate it. And I wish you the best of luck.
Any final words?
I've worked with so many student representatives, and I've been so impressed with you. You're definitely, I appreciated that you always thought about what you were going to say, and I appreciated how you presented what you said, and how you evoke your beliefs in what's important about core values, expressions of that at the school. And you're a representative of the student body, and you did it really well, and you should be very proud of that. I wish you well in your future, and I'm so glad that we got to know you through this, through your participating in this. Thank you.
Okay, and I think you have a report tonight as well.
Yes, I do.
Go for it.
I'm gonna try to share my screen. My computer is sending me warnings about the Wi-Fi not connecting well, so I'll do my best. Got too many tears. So, this is my update for June. This is my update for June. I didn't present for May because we had one at the end of April, and then the last May meeting was going to be super close to this one. So I have a few things from the end of May here too. So first of all, I think something that's been big on my mind and big on the minds of lots of teachers and administrators is that seniors are going to be graduating soon. We've had lots of activities related to that happening recently. So last week was our last full week of school, and we had Spirit Week, which was organized by students. One day we had students come to school in white t-shirts, and people got to sign them. Then another day we had Senior Skip Day, which was not a school-sanctioned activity, but everyone went to the beach. And then we had another day where students came to school in college merch, and it was really fun to get to see where everyone was planning to go in the future. And then we had another day where students, for the countdown on Monday, for our last day of school, everyone came to school in tropical beachwear. And we stood in the quad, and we had our tradition of the last 15 minutes of school or so on the last day. Students gathered in the quad, and we counted down the last 10 seconds of school. And then we all got to file out through the quad. I'm not sure if everyone's familiar with this tradition, but on the first day of school for 9th graders, you walk in through one entrance of the quad, and for the last day of school for 12th graders, you walk out through the other entrance. So it's a very full circle moment, and our teachers and administrators were cheering us on, so that was really nice. And then after that, on Tuesday to Wednesday, we had senior prom, which was at the House of Blues, a jazz club in Fenway. That was an excellent night, and I really appreciate all the care and effort that went into organizing prom and also the after the prom party, which was hosted at the high school. And then seniors went to senior sunrise after that at 5 a.m. At Lars Anderson, and this is a picture from there. It was a really beautiful moment to bond with the grade. And then today we had our pickup for cap and gowns and our graduation rehearsal and yearbook signing, which was another one of the final moments. I feel like the goodbye has been kind of long because we've had all these fun activities interspersed, but it's been very nice to get to spend these last moments together. And then finally, Sunday, we have graduation. Currently, it's scheduled to rain, so there might be some things up in the air with that. They might move the timing slightly, but they might move it inside if there's thunder, but that's gonna happen on Sunday. And then other than everything that's been going on with seniors, we've had Science MCAS, that was this week for 9th graders, and final exams for the rest of the school are going to happen towards the end of their school year, which is the 23rd and 24th. Seniors had our final exams in the last few days of May. And then this past weekend, there was also a senior athletic appreciation night to honor seniors for their excellence in athletics. So lots of people went and got awards from coaches, which was very special. And the last thing I wanted to talk about today is that legislature just passed a new bill about transferring into a new class deadline. So the issue with that so far is right now we have it in the student handbook that students can add a completely new class up until the end of Q1 or 10 days after Q1, which is a really long time. That's until mid-December. And I think most teachers think that is unrealistic. A student would not be able to catch up with that much work after having missed that much. And curriculum coordinators have been enforcing a different deadline, which I think has been the month of September. But in order to correct that discrepancy, we wanted to work on a bill in legislature to fix it and define when students are able to add a fully new course. And I just want a slight specific here is that this is not about changing levels of a course, so it's not going from honors algebra to standard algebra. It's about saying instead of woodworking, I want to take painting or something like that, where you're picking up a new course that was not in your schedule before. And something we were discussing a lot is this applies specifically to seniors a lot because when you get to senior year, there's so many more options in the courses you're taking. So if someone is taking foundations of calculus, if they switch to trigonometry, which might be slightly easier or harder class, that is considered a course change, not a level change. So we needed to firm up these definitions to describe when students would be able to do that. And what we arrived at that passed this past week in legislature is that students can add a new course that's a full year course 3 days after IPRs come out in Q1. And the reason we arrived at that was because students were really arguing for this deadline to be after IPRs so students can get feedback from their teachers on how they're doing before they decide they want to change the class. And for semester-long courses, the deadline, I think it's 10 days into school. And the reasoning with that is semester courses are quite short and it can be really hard to catch up if you're already, like a third of the course has already finished. You can't reasonably catch up to that. So this has passed legislature, and what's slated to happen next is our head of school, Mr. Meyer, can either sign the bill or he can veto it. And we will see what happens there. But if it actually does go into effect, then that will be the new law of the land for next year. And that is all I have for the June updates. Since this is my last meeting, I did want to say a few words. First of all, I want to say thank you to all of you. Everyone knows that it takes a lot of work to run a school district, but I don't think I quite understood how much work it took until I was part of this body. I mean, the agenda packets are really thick and long, and you guys meet very often, more often than I am here, and the meetings are so long. and I appreciate the hours and the effort that you are putting into this work. It is super important and super commendable. And I also wanted to say that I'm very grateful for our system as a whole that has allowed students to have such a voice and such agency in the decision-making processes that are involved with running a school district, because I know this is not the case everywhere. In fact, I haven't talked to many students who say they have experienced this, where a student is allowed to serve as a representative on school committee. And it is so special that I've been able to do this and that we have this role in the first place. At BHS, we talk a lot about freedom and responsibility. That's one of our school mantras. And I think that is definitely manifested in this role, in that a student is allowed to come and serve and literally have a seat at the table where all these huge decisions are being made about what school is supposed to look like. And school primarily, I think, affects students, and it's amazing that students are able to have a voice in this process. And one other thing I wanted to address is that there are so many stakeholders involved with schools and education. You have your teachers, your students, families, community members, administrators. There's just so many people involved, and I really appreciate how thoughtful all of you are with coming to these meetings and listening to all these people. And I think in Brookline, people are very civically engaged. They like to participate in these discussions and conversations, and I think that's incredible. I also know it's really hard for all of you because there are so many competing viewpoints and interest groups of people who want to be heard and people who think certain things should be run certain ways. And you guys bring so much care and consideration into these conversations, and I really appreciate that. I think that's all I have to say for now. I know the new student representative is going to be Annika Banerjee. I know Annika from the squash team. She and I have been on the squash team for the past 2 years, and she also joined the Cypress, the school newspaper, this year. So I know her well. I know she has a great work ethic. She's incredibly smart. She's going to be amazing at this job. And it's kind of coincidence that the past 3 school committee reps have all been on the squash team, but I'm glad that we're representing a niche sport. And I think she's going to do awesome, and she's going to represent the students well. Thank you. Oh my gosh, sorry, I forgot one thing. I wanted to say thank you to Betsy, who does so much work for the school committee and really keeps things running smoothly. You have sent me like so many emails that have helped me stay on track, and I really appreciate that. You send them well in advance. Whenever there's a change, you send me like 3 months in advance warning so I can change it on my calendar, and that has been so useful, and I really appreciate all the work you do in running these meetings.
We have a little gift for you, a little presentation.
Something small for you, just as a token of gratitude. I don't have a mic, so I won't say much, except thank you.
Thank you so
loved having you.
much. Oh, this is so sweet. I really appreciate it.
Thank you again, Aditi. You're the best of Brookline. Great. Okay, we're 3 minutes early in the agenda. Superintendent Wong's report comes up right now.
So we have a few things under the superintendent's report. The first one is the FY26 financial update, and Dr. Susan Givens is going to present that. So she won't be here to give us the fourth quarter report because the fourth quarter won't be done till the very end of this month. This is kind of a special gift to get this financial update at this time, so don't expect one next June. And I appreciate that she did it, but it's essentially as close as you can get to a fourth quarter report, and it is a gift that she's offering. So she did present at the subcommittee, but I just thought it's good for just a more public presentation of where we are at the moment financially.
So I'll be incredibly brief and just let you know that this report is presented for activity through May the 22nd, not June the 30th. So there's still more processing of information and expenses that will hit the books and all of that between now and then. But we continue to trend in a very positive way for the year. And I anticipate that we'll close the year and be able to close the structural gap that we entered the year with. So that is just really terrific news, and I'm sure a relief to everyone here. There's a lot of work that's happened throughout the year in order to make that so. My colleagues in the corner offices going after special revenue funds and making sure we get every dime out of the reimbursements that we can for circuit breaker, and applying for every opportunity we can to leverage resources so that we can take advantage of those, and we were able to close the gap. So that's good. So at this point in time, we have $822,000 to the good in our operating budget, which is a 0.5% remaining in the budget. So that is like really landing the ship close to the margins, but on the positive side, which is nice. Given the last couple of years, we've really struggled to close the year on a positive note. So revenues are higher in special revenue funds, circuit breaker, grants, use of facilities. We've really been aggressive at tracking down and getting all the receipts that we can on the books this year. So that's great. We'll make some additional adjustments between now and the end of the year to take advantage of some of those opportunities and shift some expenses around as we're permitted to do so. And then we'll move some of those circuit breaker expenses, tuition expenses, back onto the operating budget. And like I said, we'll close in a good position by the end of the year. So that's my brief report.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan.
We have one more meeting with Susan at school committee, and I must say, she is working really hard, tying up as many things as she can before she finishes. So we really appreciate Susan, and, oh, she broke the microphone. Oh, pardon?
She's
Going out with a bang. All right, well, thanks. So, and actually, she's going to help support, hi, welcome. The next thing on the list is to update the 26-27 staff materials fee applications. And so, as I wrote the committee, so just backing up, we received 20 applications. And 20 applications, 11 for kindergarten, 9 for grades 1 through 12. And originally, we declined some of the kindergartners because we were worried that the overall kindergarten numbers were far below the projection. But I met with the material fee families and our staff, and I really appreciated hearing how much they actually really depend or count on the program existing as it does. I heard from some of our staff who have been with us over a decade, but only are just now have children that are ready to come into kindergarten. So they've actually planned where they live. They've planned around this moment. And historically, we haven't declined kindergarten. So among the staff, nothing's ever guaranteed, but there's a feeling if you really want to make sure or have the best chance of having your child be accepted through the material fee program, you need to do it for starting with kindergarten. And so I really appreciated hearing that for them to have applications not accepted at kindergarten was a very big change from what they have, what has been practiced in the district. Also, overall, we have 20 applications. I did reverse the decision on the kindergartners, and we've already sent those letters out to accept the remaining. So we had accepted 5, declined 6, and so we sent letters out to accept the other 6. But we have 9 other students in the grades 1 through 12. And what you have is a chart that was given. It's in your packet, and it gives you an idea of where the projection is across the board, K 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and also the projection for high school. And you just scan it, and you can see when we say, oh, grade 4 and grade 6 are large cohorts. So I'm just going to recite the numbers so that those who are watching can get a sense. So 466, 464, 501, 477, 543, that's grade 4, 500, 534 is grade 6, and grade 7 is 528 and 501. So you can see the differences among the grade cohorts across the level. So practice has been when applications come in, if it's a large grade cohort, we might say no, because we're committing to space available. Now, the other way of looking at it is if we only have one student applying, it doesn't make a difference across the board. So what you have is a snapshot. These numbers will change over the summer. So I put in a different color, June 1. This is a June 1 snapshot. You can see what we're talking about in the differences in the size of the grade levels, and you can also see where we are with actual. So with actual, the kindergarten will move the most over the summer, but we're a little worried where projection for a kindergarten is 466, and we're currently at 386. All right, so we'll see how the summer goes. And then you can also see for the high school where our projections are. And you can see across the grade levels 9, 10, 11, 12. So the actuals right now are for enrollment are 522, 507, 537, 588. So next year's senior class will be very big. And so you can see like they actually, they vary between 588 and 507. And so it's a challenge sometimes to even out the sections and the right number of teachers and all of that. So I am ready to accept the remaining 9 applications for grades 1 through 12, but I felt it was more fair for me to share the information that we have at the moment, the snapshot, also say that in our practice we might have declined for some of the larger grade levels, but as you can see, we have applications for 1, and we do have 3 for grade 9. Now grade 9, the rising grade 9 is larger than some of the other grade level cohorts, but it's actually smaller than the graduating, what will be the senior class. Keep in mind that the grade 9 of the grade levels is the one that will likely increase over the summer. And so just to keep that in mind. So unless I hear otherwise, I'm ready to commit to accepting the other 9. Right, so we have accepted 11 kindergartners, and that we would accept the other 9. Right.
Can I say something?
Sure.
I deeply appreciate, Bella, that you reached out to the teachers who have applied and other teachers who've been involved in the program, listened carefully to them, and as you said, our teachers build their lives around the materials fee program. They depend upon it. If they live in JP or Dedham or some other contiguous community, they view the materials fee program as a very important component of their commitment to Brookline. So I just want to thank you for reconsidering the original position that you took, and I think that's an indication of really, really strong leadership, so thank you.
Thank you for that. I'd also, thank you. At this time, I'd also like to take an opportunity to point out why we eliminated a kindergarten section at FRR. So you have the numbers in front of you, and what you have is just the kindergartens. You have the total number of kindergartens currently enrolled, and then you have the current averages. And so for our community, I'm just going to cite the averages. 15.7, 14.3, 17.5, 13, 12.7, 16.7, 19.5, and 13. The guidance for K is 22. So we want to acknowledge that because the projection for K is 466 and we're currently at 386, we might be lower than the projection I don't know by how much. We'll see by the end of the summer. But our average class size for the kindergartens are low right now. When we looked at it, we could have possibly removed more kindergarten sections than the one that we did. We did take the one at FRR because they have 5 sections going to 4. We did take in consideration how impactful it would have been to take the kindergarten section in other schools with fewer sections. The other is at FRR, we decided to add a grade 5. All right, so the grade 5 at this time is over guidance. So we took a K, but we added a grade 5. And so in terms of what we budgeted for the year, we felt like that was a reasonable thing to do given where the averages are. That being said, the average for the kindergarten class right now for FRR is 19.5. The guidance is 22. Lincoln and Lawrence are shared buffer zones. So Lawrence, the average is 13, and Lincoln, the average is 12.7. So new families coming into the buffer zones will likely be enrolled in those other schools. So that's part of the consideration when we thought about what we were doing with the kindergarten sections. Just explain how the decision was made, because I know there's some questions about that. Do you, the committee members, have any questions about that? All right, so yes, you have, so.
Carolyn.
Thanks for all this info, and I just want to, the way this is laid out, I'm just trying to catch up with understanding the table. So if we're just talking about kindergarten at the moment, so the projection was 466 based on whatever. At the actual means at the moment, we have 386 kindergartners registered. Does that include our 11 materials fee acceptances?
It includes 5 of them, not
Okay.
the other 6.
Okay, so it'll be 386 plus 6.
Actually, I'm not sure. Actually, maybe it does
Okay.
include the other 6, because I changed that. Well, no, June 1. I don't think I changed my mind on before June 1. So it probably just has the 5. Yes.
Okay. And then, sorry, I can't do the math
It's okay.
like a savant, but for what is, and then this table with the averages and the number of sections is today. Is that right?
June 1.
June 1,
Yeah.
okay. And what is the total kindergartners number, June 1?
So actual, see that actual 3, it's 386.
Okay, then I'm not understanding.
Okay.
My
Projection is 466, where
so
we
when,
are.
so my question is whether, my first question was, does actual mean the number of enrollments we have currently for school year 26-27? But,
Actual is all the
Today.
numbers on the page.
okay.
right now.
And so
We
what
had,
do we have, do you know what we have currently for enrollment as of last time?
So
Kindergarten?
you can just add up all the actuals. So I didn't total it up, and I could have done that. So you would just add all the actuals across for K through 8 and 9 through 12. You can see like where we're a little up, we're a little down,
So
across the grade levels, projection and actuals. Yes.
Okay, I guess I'm going to try this one more time. Does actual mean the actual project enrolled for next year, or children in classrooms?
Actual
today?
as of June 1 is
for next
Children
year.
For next year, that's
for
my-
next year.
Okay,
yes.
for next year.
This is all for next year.
And my question is, how many kindergartners do we have in the district?
This year.
Is it just the 464?
So
or-
this year,
You want this year's. I don't have this.
I'm just
year's.
curious. Okay,
Yeah.
so kindergarten, I'm going to guess that it's 464 because that's what we have as the projection for first grade for next year. So I'm guessing there's 464.
So it's never, it's usually not exact. So,
Okay.
right.
So kindergarten enrollment is looking a little low at the
That's right.
moment.
That's
but
why-
there's a
that's
long
why-
time to go.
That's why we reduced 1K section.
Yep.
So we reduced 1K section. At FRR, we added a grade 5 to FRR.
Yep.
The buffer zones have capacity to take more Ks. And so does FRR,
And still Lawrence, Lincoln,
are the
and
buffer
Runkle,
zones.
and Driscoll
Right.
are really low. Okay. And do these actuals include incoming METCO students? And do you know how many METCO kindergartners are incoming?
They do include the MECO students, and I don't know how many Ks exactly. I don't know if Susan knows, but I don't know exactly how many Ks.
Are most of our incoming METCO students usually kindergarten? You might
Yes,
not know 'cause you're-
yes,
Yeah,
yes.
typically. Okay.
Thank you, Carolyn.
Right,
Donna?
so we do acknowledge the number is low. That's why we don't typically reduce a
Yeah.
K section in this late a year, but that's why we did it.
Donna?
Can you talk a little bit about, for those of us who don't know, how does it work when you're thinking, when you're cutting a section, but I assume you're also looking ahead if the grade above that has more students and you will need to like maybe add a section back at some point? How do you think about that process?
So because it's the incoming K, we don't have that one that's gonna come, but you're right, sometimes if we look at a grade 1 cohort, if we look at a cohort that's small, we may not eliminate a section because the next one is big. So exactly. I will say that we might be heading into an environment where there's gonna be some variability, and it may dip, it may go back up. We have, or the district has engaged a consultant from time to time. And so I talked to Susan Givens about this, and we think maybe it's a good time to maybe engage to look, because there are just different factors that they might see, trends that they might know that could help us predict.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Jesse?
Yeah, I guess my question is, in comparable districts also have a demographic that's changing at the low age?
I will just say Brookline is unique.
Okay.
And so it's hard to look at the other districts and see what's gonna happen here. It's because of where we're located, the jobs that people access here,
Right.
and whatever might be changing in
Okay.
that environment.
Makes
So I think Brookline might be a little unique, and that's why I feel like even though there's a dip, it may rebound. There, many places it's really influenced by the housing market. You know, are you having changes in your housing market? And so for here, I think the factors might be just more dynamic.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Superintendent's year-end summary?
Okay, so I apologize. I'm not presenting goals tonight, but I really felt it was important to just sort of, oh, thanks, Betsy. Just do an end-of-year report, just like a high end, and as she's calling this up. So our main areas, all right, is teaching and learning, student services, administration, finance, and operations. So we have our 3 deputies. Karen Schmuckler, Robin Benoit, and Susan Givens. And I have really appreciated the strength of this team and what we've been able to do. But you have 3 main areas, and just understand that each of them then supervise a whole nother level of administrators, and then they in turn supervise a whole nother level but beneath them. And all of this translates into what happens in the schools and in the classroom. So it's really complicated and lots of different branches. So the three main areas. The next one is just, so in the end of year summary was orientation and establishing working group routines. So coming in as a team, 200 plus entry interviews, and I thank so much all the people that were willing to participate in those, because it really, really helped me a lot to orient to what were the priorities, what to focus on first. Then completing the SLT team, which was adding Karen and Robin, and thank goodness that Susan was here. And remember, Susan's finishing her third year. It's still a relatively new team. Reestablish school visit rotation, getting out to the schools. But I still feel I can do a lot more next year, but just like getting in and just seeing principals in their work environment and seeing teachers there and students. Reestablishing the leadership team schedule that schedule had really fallen off over the last 3 years. So we as a SLT, we meet every week. The SLT with principals, I was actually thinking we would meet with them every other Monday, but I think actually we've pulled them in almost every Monday because there was just so much that we needed their input on. So I'm hoping next year to give them back some of their time. It's not that easy actually leaving their schools and coming here and parking and getting here, but they've been really great. And sometimes we've had to Zoom, like if they have no VPs in their building on a given day. But the SLTs with principals, we've been pretty much every Monday that's not a holiday, 3 hours every Monday all together. The BEU leadership meetings happen once a month. Parent leader meetings happen every other month with me, and the other month was with school committee. Moving forward, I'm gonna have them every month. So that's a Zoom meeting with all PTO leadership, but also other leadership of CPAC or STS, other parent leaders. Town administrative superintendent meetings, we were striving for every other week, but I know I can always go up and he can always come down. But we've had regular meetings, including Susan and Melissa, and those have been really helpful to just, operating on a no surprise, making sure each knows what's coming down. And then the school committee chair, vice chair meetings are weekly, and those have been really helpful to set agendas, but also just no surprises, just sharing things that are going on. And obviously the regularity of the school committee meetings. So just establishing the routines and just knowing that those are gonna happen, because what you do is you save up things and it's a more efficient use of time, and it also reinforces the collaborative nature of the work. Thank you. Another end of year highlight is just adjustment to the FY26 reductions. So I'm saying last year's reductions. I just want to say that while we felt them internally, everyone on the outside kind of expected things to be as norm. And so we had to struggle with, we were really impacted, and everyone else was expecting the same level of resources. So I'm just saying that was an adjustment, and but we lost a lot of support there. Another transition was transfer of base to recreation department, and the shift there is we used to have someone that was the school department liaison for that, and so that was a transition to not have that person interface with us, interface with base. We also anticipate additional new district level reductions as we move forward within the departments of HR, OSS, and finance at the district level. But we are looking forward to the restoration of the Director of Data and Information Systems. All to say that it's just we've been adjusting along the way. Thank you. Teaching and learning. So it's you know what? I'm leading with teaching and learning because that's the heart of what we're all about, teaching and learning. And so there's a lot of things that we were doing, implementation of the literacy program in K-5, developing what we're going to do in 6 to 8, launching and developing the MTSS across the entire district. I would say that's more been in the spring as we're doing that, reestablishing cyclical review of our curriculum, and so that's why we're announcing next year science and technology. So we've fallen off that cyclical review. The last full review was for math And then literacy was ELA was a more limited look at ELA. And it's just really important to look at our curriculum over a period of time and affirm what works and prune what doesn't and adopt new things as they make sense. We also committed to the district curriculum assessment, and that's a misnomer. It was more than curriculum because they looked at special ed, they looked at finances, they looked at a lot of stuff. So I'm going to say it falls under this category, and Robin had to sort of organize it, but it was not just curriculum. And we're waiting for that report, and we'll get it, I think, this month. Yeah. NEA continuing the work that is required of us, which is the vision of a learner and the curriculum alignment that they're all doing at the high school. But vision of a learner is expanded to include the K-12. Just highlighting new courses, because I think it's kind of cool that we added those courses in computer sciences. So bolstering our work in technology, algorithms and data and systems programming. Competency determination, because the MCAS was removed as a graduation requirement as a vote across the state, we had to come up with new competencies for graduation as required. So that was done. We've been talking about grade 9 social studies course, WISP, and that was presented to us, and we'll be talking about it again in the fall. I just want to note we sent kids out to the Dominican Republic, to Mexico, to Taiwan and Europe. And so the things in the world are doing what they're doing, and I think it's great that we are committed to have programs that send kids out, and we have families that are willing to put the kids in those programs to send them out, and so we got to get out of our borders, and so just that. And then a highlight for us is monitoring, supervision, evaluation, and that will be ongoing. That was named as part of a strategic goal for the district, and it will remain as such. So next, thank you. Student services, I just want to emphasize student services is more than special education. It's counseling and mental health, and it's anything we do that is an intervention for students. A lot of it is in general education, not just special education. So student services is huge. Right? And so we present pieces of it, and they are in partnership with TNL for launching and developing MTSS, and it's a constant, perpetual monitoring of services, compliance, and need for training. This is the area that changes without our say. I mean, regulations are always changing, and we're just having to respond when it happens. And so next, please. Over the year, we try to intentionally roll out presentations over the year so they're not all bunched up, so that the school committee members have the opportunity to really absorb the material that's presented to you. So if you note, these are the presentations reflective of TNL and student services, and you see like there's this regularity of every month you had sort of this other major thing presented to you, and it's on purpose, it's intentional, and it's also intentional that we keep TNL and services up at the forefront, right? So that's just a reflection of what you had this year. Thank you. But a huge focus this year was on financial management and operations. And so we have to address that. But I just really wanted to lead with TNL and what we do to support our students around student services. We had a successful close out of FY25, and we closed it out sometime in November. That was no small task, because what was left out of FY25 was frankly kind of a mess. And so thank you to Susan and everyone in her department, and also to the contributions of the deputies in being able to close out FY25. And again, adjusting everything, the things that have been eliminated. FY26 has been better than on target with a structural deficit. We came into this year with a 1.9 million structural deficit. We are currently narrowed it down to about 500,000. We are on target to perhaps closing it even more And so it's amazing. FY26, no surprises. Susan has been on target with her quarterly reports, no surprises, and we are better than on target. So thank you to all that hard work. And we now have solid preparation for FY26 without a deficit hanging over us. That is such a big deal. All right? We were going to go into the year without worrying about this deficit, how we were going to pay for things that were not in the budget. I want to highlight we had successful progress on PSB Town CLA MOA, which sunsets in October 2026. On that was the approval of financial policy. On that was the quarterly reports. On that was the student services presentation that happened in November. We did everything that was in it. The only piece left to be done is the MUNIS working group. Everything else has been addressed, but it sunsets in October, so we're actually still within the window that we said we would get it all done. We would hope we could get the MUNIS part done, but we will. Other things were transportation for South Brookline. That was really frustrating at the start of the year, but we were able to resolve that ultimately. We also needed to add transportation for peers after-school programs, and this was really to support equity for those two students that are now on a split campus, that they're able to access everything else that the students at the other K-8s are doing. And we've done a lot of work on updating the emergency protocols. Most schools went through evacuation drills, and they're updating. They weren't perfect, so they're updating to make them and responding to those experiences. Next, please. It just highlights on accountability. We always have to do end-of-year audits. That always happens, but we got extra audits this year. So DESE audit of the IDA grant, and you know what? We were expecting something to come out of it. We were really, really proud to have nothing out of compliance and no corrective actions. So that was an amazing result. MTRS got audited. We had the district curriculum assessment, and I am listing it because they looked at our finances and operations again. We had the town audit committee that was working with us because of the CLA review report. And so once the CLA audit, the MOU was done, they sort of stepped back and let us have space to do the MOA, and so we were able to do that. And of course, we're always meeting with advisory and the advisory subcommittees. There are a lot of people in advisory and a lot of subcommittees, so they are always working with us and asking questions to make sure that we are accountable for what we say we're going to do. Next, please. Just highlights, there are a lot of small capital projects. I just want to state, you know, we have this big building project that is going on next door, and it's been kind of quiet, which is good news. So I'm used to building projects where it's like, well, we found something we weren't supposed to find, or something, or we need to do these big change orders, et cetera, et cetera. So it's huge that project has been going on as it has been without big problems and changes. And so that's exciting. The school committee did approve a solar project at Driscoll. The school committee did approve EV charging stations. And so just in supporting sustainability, you did approve the climate leaders application for municipal decarbonization roadmap, fleet management. I don't know what the title was. Fleet management, electrification, and vehicle replacement policy. You did approve the Brookline Music School project, which is exciting, right there next to Lincoln School. And I'm just going to take the chance to address the Driscoll rooftop playground since we're on the topic of capital projects. So the Driscoll School project has been closed out, meaning any funding that was left in that project is closed out, and the team that would have addressed with any lingering issues around the project, that no longer exists. So we know that the rooftop playground, there is an issue when in warm weather with the exposure to the sun, on the impact on the temperature of the surfaces on the Driscoll rooftop playground. Because the main body is no longer in place, And also, there's been changes in leadership on some of the other departments. Park, for example, that has a new leader. I'm a new leader. There are other new leaders. So we don't know what happened, what got ruled out, and why we are in this situation now. I will say we now understand what happened. Umbrellas were supposed to be the solution for the rooftop. The umbrellas cannot go in. It has to do with what would support the umbrella and the proximity of that support being too close to the play structure. And as you can imagine, students running around, and so you can't put things where they can run into them, because they run into things even when you don't think they're going to run into them. So the umbrellas and additional structure cannot be done. One of the options that have been considered originally, I understand now, were putting sails up. So where we are right now is in conversation with the architect, who has been generous to allow us to talk to them directly, is to re-examine, re-look at the other proposals that were considered. It's entirely, they entirely thought the rooftop might be an issue, so it's not like they didn't think about it. But they had resolved a different solution, which is not the one we can do. So we're in the process of working with the architect. We may need designs to be finalized, and then we need to see what that will cost, and then we will determine on what we can do to address the funding needs. But right now, we are in that place, but we are making progress, right? Because we know what we had and what we can't do, and so we're moving forward about with other solutions. The Lincoln Playground, I know people have been asking about that. That money was being held for the schools in case we needed it. We didn't need it this year, as Susan Gibbons has presented. We've actually narrowed the deficit even further, and so this was in case we exceeded the deficit, and we didn't. So that money is available, and it's all in there for FY27. Next slide, please. This is a really big deal. The school committee's been busy. I've never seen a school committee so busy on their policies. So the civil rights student policy, it's great that has been passed, because it was important for us, because it gives us the base of the training, and also gives us the base to address when things go wrong, like what's the process for that. The financial policy, thank you to Mariah Nobrega. That was on her to-do list, and it was listed as one of the things to be done on the MOA. And so thank you to everyone, Jesse, everybody, Sarah, on the finance subcommittee to get that done, but that's huge. So there's a big, huge manual now done that's in place. Physical restraint policy, administration and medication policy are things where I said, changing rules, and we have to kind of drop everything and meet those deadlines and get them done. So thank you. Next, please. Just some highlighted recognitions, here at school committee, the MASS Student Awards, Aliana, Beatrix, Elia, Layson, and Aiden Sullivan. And what was really heartwarming were all the testimonials and all these people that came to root the students on, and also the BEF Cavalier Awards, which were presented here. It's huge honor for them. And I just thought, kudos to Steve Lantos, who's retiring this year. He got a scholarship in his name. Wow. Yes, you approved it. Yeah. So,
I didn't know he was retiring.
Oh, he is retiring.
Wow.
So kudos to Steve. That's really very cool.
Wow.
And thank you to Andy Liu and Mariah, our school committee members that have, that were so much part of FY26, not here tonight. And then also to our PSB administration, Donna Finnegan, Susan Gibbons, and Patricia Laham. Retiring. Yes, she's retiring. And I don't know how to say, but there was the unexpected, the chemistry lab accident in July, but also throughout the year, the loss of loved ones, whether it was like a recent student alum, parents, guardians, other loved ones that we lost in this year, and they impacted us. Sometimes more in the immediate environment in a particular school, or sometimes the loss was so big that it impacted us as a town. And so I just want to acknowledge that happened. And then the myriad of legal actions that everyone came together to address as they might come. And did you notice, I did not mention the override because so much has been said about the override, and I just want to say there was so much more that happened, and the override's so great, and about the override, we talked about it. So many of our meetings were around about the override, and so very grateful, and it's going to give us the capacity to do more on teaching and learning and supports for students in the next year, and I'm very, very grateful for that. Thank you.
So Bella Wong is a very modest human. And when I, excuse me, when I say what I'm about to say, which is not a formal evaluative statement, Bella's going to go like this. Because that's who she is. But anybody who just watched that presentation with dozens and dozens of topics and issues and in degrees of complexity and magnitude, anybody who watched Bella's ability to be engaged in all of those items and issues and topics, to me, is extraordinary. She's been here for less than a year, and her knowledge of the system is deep and complex and impressive. And this is a big and complex organization, and you've been here for less than a year. And you know this organization now as well as any superintendent that I've ever seen. So you can put your head down, but I just want to say you are an impressive and wonderful individual, and we are so lucky that you are here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sarah,
Oh,
you want
Go
to say
ahead.
something?
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, it's a good place to work. I have a wonderful team. There are wonderful educators and wonderful students. And so very talented in many ways. So anyway, thank you.
Sarah?
Wanted to take this opportunity to ask if you feel that you are fully staffed for HR currently.
We have, not at the moment, but we do have a new HR director that will start July 1. We still have part-time consultant. We had someone return from a maternity leave, so we're more fully staffed than we have been. And so we're not fully staffed because we don't have an HR director in place. So thanks to Susan, we've been sort of doing it between the two of us. Not at the moment, but July 1.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks.
Comments? No, if there are no comments, we move on to public comment. And I think most people know we encourage the community to come here, either in person or virtually, and express themselves as part of the democratic world that we live in. And you each get no more than 3 minutes, and Betsy's a great timekeeper. And so Betsy also has a list of people who are speaking, so here we go, public comment.
Our first speaker is Oz Palchik.
Good evening. My name is Oz Palchik, and I'm in 8th grade at the Driscoll School. Unfortunately, I have to leave directly after my comment because I have a school band concert. But some of you may remember me from a few months ago when I spoke about bringing back leveled social studies for 9th grade at BHS. My grade recently has been working on a civic action project in social studies class where we've all chosen a cause that we're passionate about to advocate for. I decided to continue advocating for leveling, and in my research I came across a law, specifically Title 7, Chapter 71, Section 13 of the Massachusetts General Law that says, and I quote, "Any course not included in the regular curriculum shall be taught if the parents or guardians of not less than 30 pupils request in writing the teaching thereof, provided that the implementation of said course is voted by 2/3 or more of the full membership of the school committee. This is a tremendous opportunity to finally get it passed without any obstacles from third parties. I've written a petition for current 8th grade parents on bringing back level social studies. My minimum requirement is 30 signatures. I've reached 33 and counting. This is still not including the many other Brookline residents who believe in students having the opportunity to receive rigorous instruction on subjects they're passionate about. I understand this issue has been debated and discussed extensively, but as we learned this year in civics, elections matter. So as I stand here today before the new and improved Brookline School Committee, I urge all of you to give students who are passionate about social studies the same opportunities as you give to every other student. Thank you.
Next, we have Linda Roseman.
I agree with everything that Oz just said. That's a tough act to follow. I'm Linda Roseman. I'm a town meeting member. I'm a retired Driscoll Pre-K para, a Hayes School substitute teacher, former chair, Police Commissioners Advisory Committee, and I'm a current community liaison to the Hayes School Council. 5 years ago, our well-respected school resource officer program fell victim to the nationwide anti-police sentiment generated by the murder of George Floyd. Our program was a model for other municipalities, and ironically, we are now one of the few school districts without a school resource program. At an August 2024 policy subcommittee meeting, principals were invited to come and discuss their priorities for the coming year. That was in 2024. One of their top asks was a reinstatement of the SRO program. SROs were not security guards, surveillance teams, or disciplinarians. They forged relationships with students and connected the school, students, and their families to services and resources in the community. The school resource officer was often cited by students as one of the trusted adults they felt they could talk to or go to for help, advice, and support. SROs taught classes on internet safety, relationship safety, drug and alcohol use and abuse, and included lessons on how certain behaviors can result in criminal charges. And yes, their presence also helped to deter violence involving students and the use, abuse, and distribution of drugs and alcohol on school grounds. Perhaps most importantly, being on scene helped them to steer misguided students away from the juvenile justice system and connect them to support services. Students who were first-time offenders were given a second chance to avoid prosecution when SROs were able to intervene and negotiate diversionary contracts. Community policing is about relationships. Public safety officers are part of our community. Police officers should not be anonymous people in uniforms. Forming and maintaining relationships between our young people and our public safety officers is good policy. Our principals want this. At the August 2024 Policy Subcommittee meeting, principals spoke eloquently about the void created by the absence of SROs. They were ignored. Let's support them and bring back our school resource officer program. Thank you.
Next, we have Talmadge Nardi.
Right, I'm Talmadge Nardi. I'm a 9th grade English teacher at Brookline High School, and I have a 2nd and 5th grader in Brookline. But I am actually here to share a group statement from the Brookline school staff who have children enrolled in the materials fee program. We heard some good news even as I was walking in. I want to express our gratitude for the recent decision to accept kindergarten applicants to the materials fee program, and it sounds like all applicants. We specifically thank the Brookline School Committee members for hearing our concerns and to Bella for her willingness to meet a large group of Brookline faculty and staff late last Friday afternoon. As she saw from the turnout in the meeting, those who are invested in the program include hiring managers, parents of Brookline graduates, current parents of students in the program, and staff hoping to enroll their children this year and in future years. As she heard in the meeting, this program enables our schools to recruit and retain talented educators for many years. Listening is not an easy skill, especially when it means truly hearing other people's perspectives and experiences. We thank Bella for reconsidering her original decision in light of hearing the impact on Brookline faculty and staff and to genuinely understand their personal stories. Bella's prompt and sincere engagement was deeply appreciated. Finally, we want you all to know that we love working in Brookline. We love our students, and we value the opportunity to have our own children attend the schools where we work every day. Thank you.
And our last speaker is Thomas Reed.
I was here in December reading an open letter, and I'm gonna just read some parts of that and come with a new take on the same topic. Again, my name is Thomas Reed. I'm the executive director of Driscoll Extended Day Program, DEDP, and I'm here to talk about the fact that from 3 to 6 every weekday, there is no school or town staff on site to manage entry into Driscoll School. As a result, DEDP staff end up handling access for our families each day. We love that. We're also constantly interacting with anyone else who needs to enter the building after hours. That we love less. This includes non-DEDP caregivers, school staff attending meetings, outside instructors, students arriving for lessons or practices, playground users, community members, right? There's, I think, a Pierce concert happening there now. We frequently let in parents who are coming for parent-teacher conferences, right? School-structured, school-scheduled events. The new Driscoll building was designed and promoted as a community resource, and it is widely rented by community stakeholders, choirs, churches, theater groups, music lessons, and town meetings. These renters all face the same building access issues and often rely on DEDP staff for help. While we are committed to supporting the larger Driscoll community, it shouldn't fall on DEDP to manage building access for every individual entering or exiting after school hours. Current town policy requires each renter organization to manage its own access plan, which means that for up to 10 programs in the building after school, each group should hire its own individual person to manage staff access after that time. I'm just here essentially to point out oh, okay, sorry. No worries. That is where I wanted to kind of leave my prepared remarks and just point out the redundancy there, right? And that redundancy represents a huge amount of waste, right? We're saying that for Brookline Music School to run a single 1-hour lesson, policy is they need to provide 2 teachers, right? Because otherwise they're leaving, if a family arrives 10 minutes early for their lesson, say on a day that's 20 degrees, we had a bunch of those this last winter, well then town policy says I am required to leave that child outside in the cold, right? I can't do that. Town policy says that Brookline Music School's responsibility is to have 2 educators there, one to run the lesson and the other let the person in, multiplied by every rental program in the building. You see, it just doesn't make sense, right? And I want to highlight again, to me, what makes Brookline so special as a town is the vibrancy of these resources and services. And I think that amount of waste can only kill that vibrancy, right, and can only limit the amount of access to these services. I think the metaphor that comes to my mind is like the fumble on the 5-yard line, right? I think we've built this wonderful school playground and we're working on how to manage the heat, right? I know that was something that was mentioned. I think the same could be said with the field, right? The playground and the field on the other side of Driscoll is awesome. As I took a quick head count as I left just now, about 75 or 80 families, right? There's a bathroom on the exterior of the building. You can't get into it. There are 3 bathrooms inside. You can't get into them. So for those 70 or 80 people, all of the landscaping around Driscoll is dying from a torrent of toddler urine. There just is no other option, right? That is, they're coming with a common sense solution to this thing. And again, I think the metaphor for me is that drop on the 5-yard line, right? I think we have this awesome gym that we want to rent out, but we have no way to let teams in. And I'm frequently dealing with frustrated BREC basketball parents who say, why won't you let me into the gym? And I say, the town says I'm not supposed to let you into the gym. And they say, we call the coach, but I'm having those types of interactions constantly. And I think if we continue with that metaphor, right, we've dropped the ball on the 5-yard line, we're in luck, right? Because all we need to do is pick it up and move just this little last step to hugely up the amount of access that the whole community is getting to these resources and services that they are paying for and have paid for. So again, I come here, not just as an extended day director, but as somebody who just sees the whole community just like Tantalus, out of reach of these awesome services that they, voted for in this huge number with the override. I view that as a mandate that this is what Brookline is about. So I come asking, please help us get awesome access to our awesome resources. And thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. The policy manual says that the chair can direct public commenters in some direction. So I guess, thank you so much for your presentation. Bella, who can we reach out to?
Actually, this is something we've been working on. It's just, we just didn't get it done this year. So our issue is how to compensate for it. We're actively looking at it. Yeah.
It's about locked doors, right?
It's about having someone there to open it, and so who's opening it and compensating them. And so it could be, I would like to look at the use of the buildings, and it might be embedded in the rental fee, that we can do it, but we just couldn't do it in the middle of it. So we have to look back and figure it out. But it is something where it's a problem. I would acknowledge it's a problem.
Right.
Yes.
Thank you. Donna?
It's okay.
Okay.
No, I was just going to add that it's at multiple locations, not only at Driscoll. So last year in policy, we heard from all the other programs, Hayes, FRR, et cetera, that it's a recurrent issue. So it's good that we're working on it, and maybe this summer we figure it out.
Okay.
So yeah.
It brought back memories to me, because when I was growing up, the elementary school gym was open, and everybody went after school to the gym, played ball. So today we lock schools. We didn't do that back then. Anyway, thank you. Okay. Any comments? Anybody want to say anything? No? Presentations and discussions of current issues. We have an update on the implementation of the district literacy curriculum. Robin?
Thanks, Robin and Joelle Peterson. And they came from an STS
Yes.
event. Yes.
Oh, she's your sign.
Bye, good luck. Good night, everyone. See you on Sunday. Yes.
Oh, that's right.
It's gonna be on the field.
Yeah.
Bring a rain, Parker.
Okay, we, as Bella looked back on, we came to you in the fall and updated you on our plans for the year with our literacy implementation at the K-5 and the 6-8 level. So we're back again, Dr. Peterson and myself, to give you an update of where we are and where our priorities lie in the next year. And as we start, I also want to acknowledge Kristen Gray, who is our K-8 ELA coordinator, and all of her hard work this year. She presented with us in the fall. She was unable to be with us here tonight, otherwise she would have been. But she had a prior family commitment, so she was not able to. But I think, we can't start this presentation without acknowledging all of her work this year, and what a big undertaking it is to launch curriculum across the district. And not just at one level, but at K-5 and 6-8. So as we present our overview this evening, we're going to give a little background, as you know I like to do, just to kind of reorient ourselves about where we're at. And we have some new members with us now, so we want to make sure everybody's in the same place. We're going to talk about some of our learnings from the implementation, and we're going to talk about our next steps for next year and beyond, because it's a continuing process. They're really, as we talked about curriculum review earlier, as Bella mentioned, that really is an iterative process, that it's never really done. It's just in different stages of where you're at, and you're constantly reflecting back on and looking to improve that. So if we take it from that lens of continuous improvement. Okay, so this is a slide I shared at the beginning of the year. So this is just to remember to ground us in that review process. And when we think about the curriculum review process, we're thinking about, is there learning and preparing we need to do as we review our curriculum? We're investigating different options, looking at our own curriculum, and in this case, we were selecting. We were in that launch mode of piloting and starting to really think about what the implementation would look like last spring and over the course of the summer, and preparing for all of our educators for this fall to be implementing new curriculum, which, as I continue to say, is no small undertaking, right? They're learning something new, they're trying something for the first time, and when you think about pacing or you think about materials, they're learning all of that, even though they are experienced and they come with this wealth of knowledge, and we have excellent teachers, as Bella said earlier. There's still a learning process that happens anytime you're implementing something new. I also just want to highlight that throughout this project, this process, we've had a number of partnerships in the learning, particularly in that learning and preparing phase, and certainly as we have gone through this year as well, and in our strategic planning as we move forward. So some of the partners that are up on our list we continue to work with. Specifically School Kit, we've worked a lot with School Kit this year. We'll talk about that. We have continued to work with New Teacher Center, particularly around as we think about how this fits into our MTSS work, because these are deeply tied together. Okay, next slide. I also want to make sure that we remind ourselves of our district's strategic priorities. So our strategic plan had outlined this as a priority for us of increasing the achievement of all students by establishing and implementing and regularly assessing a consistent, high quality and challenging curriculum delivered using evidence-based practices. And specifically as it relates to ELA, so we had an action item that we would be selecting evidence-based materials and providing professional learning opportunities to offer effective Tier 1 instruction to teach all literacy components. Okay, next slide.
Thank you, Robin. So before we jump into sharing our learnings from this first year of implementation, we thought it would be helpful to provide a little bit of context and understanding around where Fish Tank fits in terms of the larger K-8 literacy curriculum. So when we think about the skills that we want our readers and writers to develop, we can think about two domains. Word recognition, which would be the decoding skills. Those are primarily targeted through 3 evidence-based programs, Foundations in Integrity in grades K through 2, and Spelling Connections in grades 3 through 5, which target skills like phonemic awareness, phonics, morphology, those foundational literacy skills. The other domain we want to be thinking about here is language comprehension. This is the skill set that supports higher level comprehension of text when we think about building knowledge, vocabulary development, close reading skills, and how those are applied in students' discussion and their writing. And so this is the domain that Fish Tank primarily is targeting for us. So I just want us to understand that Fish Tank is a piece but not the full breadth of our literacy program. You can go to the next slide, Betsy. Thank you. I also think it's important, as Robin already alluded to understand this work as connected to the larger focus on MTSS, which we shared a little bit about at Curriculum Subcommittee a couple months back. This, I think, is actually the first reveal of our visual, that we've designed to ground this work in PSB. So very exciting. I'm sure we'll be talking a lot more about it. But tonight I just want to highlight one element of this visual, which is that the foundation of this entire system of supports is a solid Tier 1 curriculum, right? We know that all students deserve access to coherent, evidence-based instruction in the general education classroom. And so that is what is so important about this Fish Tank adoption, is that it has really allowed for us to move towards coherence and ensuring that all students are having similar access to these high-quality instructional materials in every building. And of course, we can also think about a tiered system of supports in that skills domain. The 3 curricula I mentioned are really our core programs for foundational literacy skills. We've also thought a lot this year about how we can support literacy intervention at higher tiers, building more robust practices around structured literacy through adoption of programs like UFly, and refining our universal screening practices with MClass. So all that is related work that I think we'll see is really central to this MTSS structure that we're trying to build. Betsy, you can move forward. Thank you. So this slide we also shared earlier in the year, just to give a sense of the several different feedback loops that we were hoping to create in this first year of implementation. As a quick reminder, this year we have had full implementation of Fish Tank in grades K through 5 in every building, and partial implementation in grades 6 through 8 with a plan for full implementation in those grades next year. Betsy, you can move forward. Okay, so we have some adorable kindergartners at Driscoll to act as our entry point into this next slide. We thought we'd start by answering the question of, like, what are we seeing in Fish Tank classrooms, or how does the literacy instruction that we're seeing now look different than years past? And I think, you know, this is all informed by the collaborative observations that we've done as part of learning walks, feedback from teachers, informal classroom visits, all of these things that we're seeing. So I think the most salient dimension that you would notice in walking into a Fish Tank classroom is the fact that students are now grounded in this shared experience of reading a common grade level text. So this emphasis on complex text that serves the role both of helping students to develop their reading skills, but also building knowledge about the world, right? Fish Tank is a knowledge building curriculum, so they are reading and writing about meaty content. And so this experience of everyone having that shared reading experience looks different than what you might have seen in a classroom doing guided reading, for example, which was a popular model. And you know, this requires high levels of support, right, to ensure that all students can access that grade level text. So you'll see a lot of explicit teaching around routines for reading, vocabulary, discussion, explicit instruction in comprehension strategies to support access to those texts as well. And then in terms of writing instruction, different than in years past perhaps, students are writing primarily in response to the texts that they're reading, both for the purposes of solidifying their understanding and supporting their comprehension, but also demonstrating their learning. And they're writing in multiple genres. So in both reading and writing, there's this heavy emphasis on nonfiction, again, back to the purpose of knowledge building. So kids are really grappling with content that they are also thinking about in science and social studies. And there's a lot of potential there, as we'll speak about later, in terms of integration of those curricula across the school day. Betsy, you can move to the next slide. Thank you. I also wanted to speak a little bit about what our structure for professional learning has looked like this year. And I'll start by saying I think if you talk to most teachers, they would tell you they wish they had more, right? We are working within the structures available to us and you know, providing the support where we can, but I think there's always more to learn and more support that we wish we could offer. This year we've been able to use some of our Tuesday afternoon time on 5 days to provide support around Fish Tank, and also a half day of that PD session that happened in November was devoted to Fish Tank, primarily focused on intellectual prep by grade level. And when I say intellectual prep, I mean this very structured process of unpacking lessons and units and really thinking about how am I understanding the learning targets, how am I preparing these materials so that they are accessible to my students and able to meet the needs of the students in front of me. So it's a really important piece of this implementation process that we've prioritized in professional development. Much of this has been led by the literacy specialists at the building level. We've also had dedicated training for our paraprofessionals. With our OSS partners, we think it's really important that there is that cohesive understanding for anybody working with children in the classroom to be able to understand Fish Tank and the instructional moves required. And so that has been important in terms of building that shared understanding. There's also been, outside of structured professional development time, opportunities for collaboration and feedback from educators throughout the year. Bless you. The allergies are real right now. We have offered fish tank forums, optional fish tank forums during collab time, multiple points throughout the year, where grade level teachers have met as a team to share resources, provide feedback, troubleshoot, ask questions. These have also been facilitated by literacy specialists. Those have been really productive opportunities for teachers to collaborate with each other. We've also had the opportunity, each grade band of teachers, K2, 3, 5, and 6, 8, has met directly with fish tank developers to provide feedback, to ask questions, to get support. And those have been really valuable conversations as well. And I just want to underscore how unusual it is for a curriculum developer to be that accessible and to really be willing to sit down for 3 hours and talk to teachers and provide that direct level of support. So that is something I very much appreciate about this program. We can think about other layers of instructional support as well. Monthly literacy specialist meetings have very much focused on preparing literacy specialists to support implementation in their buildings. And Kristen and I have met monthly with our partners in English language education and special education to think about issues related to accessibility and inclusion for those groups of students. And then to get back to the initial slide, thinking about feedback loops. We talked a lot in our first presentation about learning walks and wanting to leverage this as a structure to support implementation. So to this point, we have been able to conduct 4 learning walks at 4 different buildings with, in each of these sessions, 40 building administrators, literacy specialists, and district leaders, all taking the opportunity to calibrate ourselves around a common look-fors tool and really just develop a shared understanding of what to look for in a fish tank classroom, understanding of the trends that we're seeing in instruction, and how we can better support teachers in this work. So that has been hugely valuable, and we hope to do more of that next year. There's also been many opportunities for teachers to provide feedback directly on the curriculum. I will give Kristen a lot of credit here. She is a very busy woman, but has really made it a priority throughout the year to meet with every grade level team in every building multiple times. And when you do the math, right, 9 grade levels times 8 buildings, that's a lot of meeting time. But I think those have really paid dividends in terms of her being able to collect the kind of in-depth feedback that she needs from teachers to support the work, and also just building a shared sense of ownership and collaboration through this process. We have also just sent out an end-of-the-year survey to educators on their experiences with fish tank. So we're looking forward to digging into those results. And we imagine that many of those trends will confirm what we're already speaking about here. And we've also been trying to get some student perspective, particularly in grades 6 through 8, where teachers have been administering end-of-unit surveys for students and using those both for their own self-reflection, but also to inform instructional planning. And then, as Robin mentioned, we've had several very important partnerships in this implementation. We've already talked about the feedback sessions that teachers have had with Fish Tank. Kristen and I also meet bi-weekly with Fish Tank to think with them about how to support implementation, strategize, ask questions, give feedback. There's also a really exciting opportunity for 6 of our teachers from grades 6 through 8 have been asked to join their text selection committee. So they are working directly with Fish Tank to look at some of the texts in the middle school curriculum and think about additional texts that they might want to bring in. So that's a really cool opportunity for them. And as Robin also mentioned, we've been working since last summer with SchoolKit. They are one of the DESE-approved implementation support partners that we were able to access through the PRISM grant. And they've been really helpful in terms of helping us design a strategy here and think long-term about what our hopes are, indicators for success, and also in helping to facilitate the learning walks. So that has been a really valuable relationship as well.
All right, so some of the trends that we're seeing. So one thing that we noted is particularly as students are responding to text, so high levels of oral discourse with students, structured pair and small group discussions, stronger inferencing abilities, vocabulary routines. What you see here is actually a picture of, I believe it was a 5th grade classroom, and they were working in groups. They were discussing a novel. They were looking for evidence in the text in this picture of a question that they were all, and they were looking for evidence, quotes, character actions that would kind of lead them to come to a conclusion around that question. And that was actually really exciting to see. This was a picture from one of our learning walks that we did. We were also able to see on that same day kind of the foundation for that being built in the 4th grade. So this is a 5th grade. They were looking at more complex text. They were looking for different kinds of evidence. It was a little bit more concrete in the 4th grade, so you could really see how that skill of being able to speak to the text in their writing was built over time. That improved writing stamina. Kids are writing a lot as part of this, as part of the routines of this curriculum. So, and substantive writing. So really thinking about the meat of what they're writing. So if we're thinking about critical readers, critical writers, we're seeing that happen in the classroom. High level of engagement with the content, and as Joelle said earlier, strong connections to science and social studies. So when we talk about a knowledge-based curriculum, we're seeing these places for that cross-curricular connection, and we'll talk about a little bit about what that work might look like as we think about our priorities moving into next year. Our coordinators are already thinking about that, and that's a really exciting opportunity. Next slide. So some of the lessons learned. So really getting intentional about the pacing of units. As we said at the beginning, it's difficult. And the first time you do anything, you don't have your pacing down yet. Something might take a little bit longer. You're learning it. So as we begin to work together in those collaborative teams of teachers, why it is so important that they're talking with one another and thinking about what the pacing looks like through the year. Schedules of our buildings, that's come up before, but certainly not just at the middle school, but as at K-5 too, and thinking with intention about how our schedules really support targeted small group reading instruction, particularly at our K-2 level, and how it really, how they support ensuring support for all kids in the classroom. So as Joelle talked about, those partnerships with special education and our ELE supports, how does all that align? So we're all working together on a schedule that allows us to be a team for kids in that way. The need for focused work on accessibility. So that is really a next step. We've started those conversations and really thinking about how we ensure accessibility for all students, how we partner together as adults to support students. There's a strong desire for additional professional learning and collaboration. We hear it over and over again for teachers that they really value their time collaborating with their colleagues. So, where do we intentionally find that? And that's why Tuesday afternoons are so important, and being able to use that time with intention and ensure that collaboration is happening, those opportunities to bring people together. And then opportunities for science and social studies integration. So as we think about, certainly as we've gone through the pace of the year the first time, and we're thinking like, hey, wait a minute, we need to kind of think about not only how the scope and sequence aligns for ELA, but where do units align with science and social studies, and how do we pace them so that there's integration there, and we're also making it make sense. We're seeing those cross-curricular connections for kids. We're thinking about it holistically. So that is a place where we need to do some focused work as coordinators, and they've begun those conversations, and also allow for bringing in educators to those conversations around what that looks like in the classroom and get their voices into that. Next slide. So some of our priorities for the coming year. So full implementation is in grades 6 through 8. As we said at the beginning, it's been partial implementation in 6 through 8. A partnership with Crafting Minds to enhance our implementation of evidence-based literacy instruction. And this is really focused primarily on our literacy specialists and our administrators. So again, building capacity in those two groups to be able to continue to support classroom educators and our support staff in that in this work. And I need to recognize that work next year is being supported by a BEF grant. I also want to recognize BEF's partnership in this. As Joelle said, School Kit, we were able to bring in School Kit initially through the PRISM 3 grant. We were also able to extend some of that support through a BEF grant during the year. So they've been supportive of that place of ensuring that we have some of those funds where we weren't able to support it otherwise to continue the learning for our educators. Collaboration with science and social studies, as we've said, to align and strengthen our curriculum overall. Certainly as we go into a science review in the coming year, we're thinking about that, particularly in what that means for our K-5 teachers as they're managing both. Continuing learning walks. So this has been a really positive experience, really trying to build capacity at the building level to ensure that practice is sustainable and that it extends beyond literacy. Literacy has been a vehicle for us to begin that practice and really coming together around not just walking into classrooms generally, but having a focus and having the opportunity to discuss after about what we're seeing and what we take away and what does that mean and what does that mean that teachers might need in my building if we're thinking about that with building level teams. Professional learning focused on writing progression and enhancing our assessments overall. And we also recognize as we think about it's, as Joelle shared, all the components of our literacy program, really thinking about that refresher of foundations, like that professional learning. We need a refresher every so often for our K2 teachers, our literacy, and our EL specialists. Again, thinking about these are all components and we need everyone to have that learning and be on board. So that's where we are in the coming year. We've still got a lot of work to do in literacy, but it's been a learning journey this year for us. So, and need to commend all of our teachers for their hard work and implementation.
You made a lot of progress. Yes.
Thank you very much. Are there questions, comments? Sarah?
Yeah, as Bella said, you've made a lot of progress, and it's nice when these reports, you're not just repeating what you did before, but we're really hearing what the growth that's happened since there. It sounds to me like Fish Tank's really working out for us with consistency of practice, and that there's like rigorous texts and expectations. I didn't really hear you talk about common assessments, but I think that's a part of it too, which will really help us out with MTSS, so that's great to hear about. And I love when I hear you talk about paid time for educators to get together. That's great, especially, so I'm always thinking about the middle school level, it's just where my head is, and especially if with these rigorous texts, like if there's a lot of background knowledge that you want to bring to the texts, I'd love for educators to have time to explore those subjects and really feel like they're prepared to talk to the students at this high level about, the topics that are contained in the texts. What I didn't hear, so I didn't hear reference to what we've always done in Brookline. Like, are those wonderful libraries that were the classroom libraries and the ELA teachers, are those libraries books now in the actual school library? Is there time for choice and voice for students? Are students still able to explore the joy of learning? Like, where are the literature circles? And I hope that we didn't throw out everything that we had before, right, with this, and we're taking time to still bring in what the educators brought even prior to Fish Tank showing up. So I just hope that we'll have that deep engagement and joy of learning with reading, still, even with, it's great to have Fish Tank, but that we keep the good that we had before.
I'd say classroom libraries are still critically important, and choice for students is still critically important, and we also have to think about what instruction to the whole class looks like, right? So there's a balance there. I think that deep knowledge building, particularly at the middle school, you bring up an important point, and I think that's where it's even more critical that we're thinking about how we think cross-curricularly around using our partners, that we're not so siloed in middle school, and I think we've seen some of that collaboration happening. So we've talked a lot about the elementary in terms of alignment, but also teams supporting one another and thinking about how we build knowledge for text, right? Because that's always been part of English teachers, and certainly part of our English teacher work at the high school as they're engaging in various novels. But I think that collaboration has been critically important. And the fact that, you know, to me, there's also this piece of having a district-wide curriculum where we have many voices coming to that collaboration. Whereas, you know, previously, if we had different things happening in different places, you might have had a collaboration with somebody on your team. But I think we're broadening that circle, and we're bringing many educators to that conversation, which I think is critically important when we think about all of our students.
I think, yeah, I'll just add quickly, you know, having spent a lot of time in fish tank classrooms, and I think teachers would tell you the same thing, the joy is there. Kids are engaging with these texts at a very high level, and the writing tasks. Like, they're so excited to share their folk tales or, you know, tell you about what they've been talking about with Breadwinner. So the topics in these texts are really high interest. And so I do think that we are still seeing that spark that is so important. And I also think that one of the things I very much appreciate about Fish Tank is that it's a curriculum designed with a lot of professional respect behind it, right? It is engineered for levels of autonomy where teachers are making decisions about the structures that they're leveraging to teach these texts. So for example, there's a range of reading routines that teachers can use. Some of those might be small group. Some of those might be independent reading or whole class or partner reading, right? So knowing your students is still really important, and there's still flexibility built in there so that teachers can engage
Right.
with the kinds of models that they.
Which is one of the reasons why we chose it, right? Was so that it could be, it could be customed to the classroom.
Yes.
But I also like the idea of choice for the student, just because those libraries are so rich. I hope that what you're saying, you see with your own eyes, but then you also get the feedback from the teachers. I hope that they're saying what you're presenting to us. Yeah.
I think it's important to say that we're in the beginning of an implementation, so there's a balance of where it's important to have common text, because the teachers are learning from each other across. So where there's a lot of progress is the learning walks, because that wasn't being done before. So the learning walks, but also we are striving for horizontal, vertical alignment. There'll be more flexibility later, but in this, it's a very critical stage where they're really trying to reinforce being able to use shared text, so they're learning from each other. And then, but there'll be more choice and flexibility, but they need to build that core where they're at.
Foundation first.
Yeah, and also it's very, horizontal vertical alignment hasn't been the norm, and an alignment can be perceived as being too restrictive. But it's just it's important in this phase to be able to do that. And then I don't know. I guess that's what I'll say. Like, so I see it being more flexible later, but this is kind of a shift in how we do things across the schools, and trying to get. So I love it that Kristen she's doing that. She's trying to unify everyone so that they're moving in the same direction. The more they are able to learn together, the more they will compound that effort. But I see it'll just naturally move toward more text when people understand what it is that you're trying to get out of the literature that you're using.
Dr. Baines-Walsh, please.
Thank you. And thank you so much for the work so far that you guys have done. As a parent of both a 5th and 8th grader, I have seen firsthand the positive changes. You were talking about The Breadwinner. That's one of my son's favorite books now. He was talking about how much he enjoyed it. And what I appreciate is what you mentioned about the flexibility of how you do it. My son's part of the lab program, and so to be able to, for the lab kids to be able to read the same book as the rest of the kids so that they could all take part in the same conversation for him was really important. And to your point about choice, every night he does 30 minutes of reading of his own choice. And there is room for discussion of those books as well. So for him, it's been positive. My daughter, an 8th grader, was texting me a few minutes ago because she was doing her ELA homework and was talking about how more meaningful it is because they're having all of these discussions. And to have her come home and talk about Animal Farm and All American Boys and be so engaged and knowing that she's having these really deep conversations with her classmates has been deeply satisfying for her. And so thank you for the work that you're doing. And I appreciate that she's going to be able to matriculate to BHS and there's going to be a common ELA experience. And, you know, as a teacher myself, knowing that like, when I teach sophomores, knowing that the freshmen, you know, my sophomores have had a common reading experience, right? It means that as a teacher, I can now make common references knowing that everybody has read the same things. And so I think this horizontal building, which will result in vertical, I think is going to be a gift. And I know there's bumps across the way. I know there have been pain points. And so I guess one of the questions, you know, so there's always, you know, 1 step forward, 2 steps back. That's how it is whenever we implement anything good. So I'm wondering, do we have, knowing how good this is and how amazing this will probably end up being for the district, do we have a sense of what the common pain points are for teachers? Are there common pain points?
I think what Robin said about pacing is a big one. Right, just feeling like there's too much to do within the constraints of the time that they have for literacy, particularly the point about in K2, really feeling pressed for time to the point where they're not able to provide the kinds of targeted small group instruction that they would like to be able to do for our younger kiddos. And so that has been a big conversation with those grade levels. And, you know, to address that, as Robin said, like, part of this is thinking about integration of curricula over the school day with science and social studies so that, you know, as we're streamlining this content, there'll be more opportunities for those small groups, for flexibility and choice in other areas throughout the day. So that is definitely something that we're working to address, but I think that's one of the major pieces that we've heard from teachers. Is there anything else that you would add?
I think, you know, another, I wouldn't say it's a pain point, but it's a recognition, you know, that having the flexibility to make choices around texts, and I think that's a place where being able to give feedback to developers and also as they learn routines and think about where can I make a choice and where do I really need, you know, where are must-dos, where are my may-dos, how do I make those choices understanding the big picture of everything. I think it's part of the learning of any new curriculum, and as Bella shared, like as they become more adept and familiar with the routines, and they can more flexibly make those choices. And you know, hopefully, particularly if they're coming together and collaborating, they're making some of those choices together as teams, right? So again, that kids are coming with common experiences that are critically important as we think vertically about our system. So.
Carolyn.
Thank you. Thank you. That was really clear and great to hear. I'm a really concrete thinker, so it's really satisfying for me to hear this at this point, what this is actually looking like and what's actually happening in classrooms, because my experience before was the, you know, sort of theory that we were hearing about what this would be like. So, and thank you for presenting so clearly. Just curious, a couple other people mentioned assessment. So I'm guessing there's not an assessment piece with Fish Tank, or do they?
Oh, no, there is.
Okay.
Yes. They have their own assessment systems.
And so are we using that? And then sort of like, I certainly don't expect, you know, everything to reverse and be fantastic overnight, but like, at what point will we be, or you be, like setting some goals and benchmarks, and just a little more about the assessment?
Yeah.
Again, not expecting you to say like, everything is fantastic immediately. but just a little more about what that's going to look like.
So the curriculum is designed with its own assessment system, and with each unit there are content-based assessments. There are also cold read assessments, and then there are more integrated, like project-based assessments. And one of the things Robin mentioned that there's going to be a lot of professional development around next year is the fact that Fish Tank has continued to develop this project-based approach to assessment and sort of wrapping our heads around that as a new approach. So that's exciting. But we're not at this point like tracking those assessments in any central way. We're certainly using that data in planning conversations, in MTSS meetings, but that is not being aggregated in any way at this point, and I definitely think it's something that I would like to move towards. As far as like what can we expect in terms of outcomes, and when might we be able to see from the data, capital D data, that there is some shift here. Having done this kind of an implementation in another district, like it takes a couple of years. I think anecdotally, we just gave our end of the year benchmark assessments for literacy, STAR and M-Class, and STAR is the assessment where I would expect to see more of an indication of growth, because it's primarily a reading comprehension assessment and not a skills-based assessment. And I will say, I think we're seeing like some marginal growth in certain spaces and for certain groups. I would be really interested in thinking about what we see in terms of MCAS writing. I don't want to like project, but I think the writing that we're doing in Fish Tank is much more aligned with the kind of writing that students are being asked to do on MCAS, in that it's response to text. So that might be an early indicator. But I think, given that this was the first year of implementation in K-5, it's probably reasonable to talk about, some goals related to those different data sources next year or the year after. And then, perhaps shortly after that for 6-8. But this kind of thing takes time. So.
You? Donna? You want to say
Just
something?
you. Thank you so much. This was a really great presentation. Super concise and very clear, so I appreciate it. I guess I'm building a little bit on Carolyn's question about I know where you said ongoing data collection. So was that data collection coming from the assessments that you referred to?
Yes.
Okay, got it.
And then again, also are the benchmark assessments that we use for M-Class and STAR.
I'm curious, when you talk about the some of the pacing issues, how does that tie into the grade bands or the schools where we have more or less ELA minutes? Is there any? Is there?
I mean, on paper, every school has the same amount of time designated for literacy: 60 minutes for Fish Tank and 30 minutes for the skills block.
Okay.
So that's supposed to be implemented consistently in every school. Is it?
I thought there were some schools where we had. Was that just in math where we had?
Middle school, I think.
Oh,
there's
okay.
A bit more.
So that's in the middle school grades.
variability
Okay.
In terms of the periods in middle school.
Got it.
That has actually been, I won't call it a pain point, but
Yeah.
given that middle school periods are 45, 50 minutes, and the lessons are written for 60 minutes, that's been, particularly challenging for teachers to think about how to adapt in that way. But, I think they've still, as far as I can see, if we're thinking about curriculum coverage, everybody has sort of been on the same page as far as how many units they've gotten through for the year.
Got it.
I would just also add to that, I think that's, as we continue to look at schedules, we have to think about not just minutes, but how does that come together for an experience for a student? So, how we're constructing that time, how it's fitting together, how it fits together with some of our other services for students and other opportunities for students, right? So that's important that we're doing that work together and not in isolation.
Right, thank you. I'm glad you're thinking about that. The last thing I just wanted to suggest is, as you're considering feedback loops, and I'm so pleased to hear that you're also collecting feedback from students, that you consider, particularly maybe in the, I don't know what grades it's most appropriate, but some feedback from parents.
Thank you.
Thank you, Donna. Faiza?
Sorry. Thank you for your work on this. I have questions slash comments. One is that whenever we have learning walks, our educators deserve and expect that the results be shared with them or the feedback be shared with them as to what did we see when we are doing learning walks. So I just was wondering about that, if you have a system in place already or if you are thinking about it as to we go from classroom to classroom and what did we see. Something to think about, and I'm sure you have thought about it. That's number one. Number two is the shared success stories. At times that works, when we are trying to shift our educators' mindset is, peer observations, them being in each other's classrooms and just sharing what's working and what's not. So that was another thing that was on my mind, maybe a suggestion, maybe you are already doing it. And the third piece is whenever we have choices, there is a tendency that there could be a mix-up between differentiation and equity. And that is a very fine line that needs to be towed and needs to be reminded as to, I'm giving you the choice, and this is a way to differentiate, but also it could be detrimental for equity. And it could have a negative impact. So some things just to think about. Again, I'm sure you have thought about it, but I thought I would just send a reminder. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a couple of quick questions. Thank you. I appreciate what Carolyn said in terms of your clarity, insight into what's going on, and it sounds great. Two questions. Do you find, particularly in the middle grades, any impact of AI on what's going on?
That hasn't been brought to our attention as something that teachers are really grappling with in those grade levels.
In terms of papers, writing?
Yeah, that hasn't been a topic of conversation really with the schools. That's not to say it's not happening, but oh, sorry. Yeah, that hasn't been, I've been at all the middle school department meetings and that has not been a topic of conversation. Is it happening? Perhaps, but not to the point where it's been raised as a concern to us. And I would also say, I think a lot of the writing tasks in Fish Tank are designed in such a way that AI could not complete it. And a lot of the writing is being done in class. So.
I would add to that in terms of certainly everyone is grappling with AI in the current context of the world and in education. Yet at the same time, I think that one of the things that we see around writing are the routines that are built. So if I kind of go back to that picture with my 5th grade students and they're pulling out quotes and they're preparing for the writing and all of that is happening, they're not just going off and writing it. They're working together. They're trying to build that skill. They're thinking about how they might scaffold it. And so I think over time, we're going to see a development of that skill for kids.
So is there any thinking about professional development as we move deeper into AI, so the teachers can be discerning and, sort of be aware?
I think that's on our radar for all teachers and not specifically related to literacy, but understanding that that's something that particularly with our middle and high school teachers that they want more of.
Finally, do kids write with pens, like penmanship?
I think it's, well, I mean a penmanship as a.
I'm sorry. Do they write? Or
yes, they're doing both. Yeah, they're both. Yes.
Because I watch my grandchildren, and the penmanship is really embarrassing. That's all. Sarah.
So things change, and so I think I just want to test this out to see if this is a correct understanding. So high quality instructional materials now mean that you have one text for everybody, and so you don't tier writings. Instead, you have a co-teacher or the teacher is offering supports. Is that how you deal with special ed and EL right now?
Yeah, I mean, many of those supports are embedded into the fish tank curriculum. Like there are scaffolds and supports that are written in as part of the curriculum for teachers to draw on as they might feel appropriate, and in collaboration with special educators, EL specialists. But I would say there is often not a tiering or leveling of text, but particularly in terms of how kids are engaging with many of the secondary readings, like there is still an element of sort of choice and differentiation in terms of matching students with texts that might connect with interests or background knowledge, and using that as the jumping off point for accessing the text. So there's definitely still some of that, choice and independence in terms of kids selecting the text.
What does the text, I'm still
Yeah.
thinking middle school, what does
Yeah.
the text look like? Is it is it printed out on a piece of paper in black
Oh
and
no,
white?
they're trade books. They're physical books.
And some of those books are tiered to a different level?
No.
Okay, so it's always
Yeah, I'm talking about like
same text.
secondary supplemental readings that might be used to build background knowledge around a particular text.
And that's a printout.
Those might be printed out.
Okay.
And they're not necessarily at different reading levels, but there's
Choice, yeah.
involved.
You could read about this for
Yes,
your background
exactly right.
knowledge. Or,
So kids
yeah.
might have the opportunity to pick the things that they're interested in, which we know is important in supporting reading comprehension, right?
So one thing we've said in other presentations, not necessarily tonight, is this is also a manifestation of MTSS. So you have a text and you have tiered supports.
Tiered supports,
Yes, and so this has been a really great vehicle for MTSS, like how it just looks and feels.
Yeah. And I will say, like, I think we do have more work to do in terms of accessibility. And that's where, we mentioned our partnerships with ELE specialists and with special educators to really think, are the supports that are embedded in the curriculum, are they enough, right? Where are there opportunities to build in even more levels of support, right? How can we engage in co-planning? Those kinds of conversations are still really important.
Okay, do you have an interim summative statement? Anything you want to say?
Just that I'm really proud of this work. And, I think, oh, sorry. Just that I'm really proud of this work. And again, we give credit to Kristen for this, but I think this has been a culture shift in Brookline. We are not a place where, this kind of unified curriculum has been embraced as the norm across grade levels in schools. And so there's been mindset work. There's been changing hearts and minds, and we're still in that process. And I think the results that we're seeing in terms of student engagement, in terms of reading development, are really reinforcing for teachers that this is the right decision, and sort of motivating them to move forward with the work. So that's what I hope we'll continue to see into next year.
Okay, Donna had something, but then she didn't have something. So, thank you. We'll see you again.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
The next item on the agenda has to do with superintendent's evaluation process, but we're going to put that off. We're going to postpone that until the 18th of June. Okay? Everybody? With, superintendent goals and voting on that. Okay. Subcommittee and liaison reports. What I want to do is announce the sort of the reorganization of subcommittees, and starting with curriculum. Carolyn Thal is going to be the chair. Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Justice, Sarah Mokhtada is going to be the chair. Finance, Capital Projects, Jesse Hefter is going to be the chair. Government Relations, we're going to keep that vacant right now because not a lot happens with that until we meet with the legislators later in the school year. So Donna and I will sort of jump in when the government relations component is necessary. Negotiations, I'm the chair of that, and policy, Suzanne Fetterspiel is the chair of that. I'm not sure if we have any reports. Carolyn, do you have any report on curriculum?
No, because we couldn't meet in whenever we were supposed to, in May, because of reorganizing. So we are meeting the 17th.
Okay. Sarah, anything going on with diversity, equity, inclusion, and justice?
We don't have a plan to meet currently because we don't really have a staff member to call on for it, for diversity, equity, and inclusion. So we might try to reconfigure and do it more like a workshop or something like that, but for right now, we don't have a plan to meet.
So the state requires us to have an equity, inclusion, justice person, a contact person in the system, right?
Right, and that's
So we're
our
working on
leadership,
that.
our senior leadership is sharing.
SLT is standing in because it was eliminated.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Finance Capital Project, Jesse, what's up?
So our first meeting of the Finance and Capital Subcommittee was Tuesday. I just want to point out that I feel we have a very strong team. So Carolyn, Faiza, and Val are all bringing a lot of women power to the committee. I'm learning a lot. And I'm also using the emergency line to Mariah as often as I need to as well. So she and I have been meeting regularly as well. We met and discussed the two main items that were discussed tonight and brought to full school committee, which was the gifts and grants and Susan's excellent third quarter report.
Thank you, Jesse. Negotiations, they're in full swing, and we'll have an executive session if there's no new business to discuss collective bargaining. Laura?
So I would just like to suggest like a future school committee or a future subcommittee discussion about the world languages offering in middle school. I'm interested in understanding how the district determines which languages are offered at each school, how enrollment capacity is set for each language, and what happens if more students request a language than there are available seats. And I think it would be, interesting and helpful for the district to explore the sort of balance between student interest, staffing, and equitable access to world language opportunities across our schools.
Carolyn, it's in your ballpark.
So noted. That's, I'm saying that somewhat.
I was going to, I've talked to Robin about putting the departments on a cycle of presentations, so it could be a 2-year cycle or a 3-year cycle, depending on the pacing. So we could put world language on that. It would make sense. So this is the kind of thing where if you see a department regularly, then you come to understand those kinds of questions. So we can do that. Okay.
I think it's important. Thank you. Any new business? Any new business? We're doing really well on time tonight. This is really great.
Okay.
But that's only because we deferred one.
One big part.
Wah, wah, sorry.
No, come on, Donna.
Okay.
Okay. Any new business?
Donna, we have to encourage it. We can't discourage it.
That's right. No cynicism. Okay, no new business. Then we have a proposed executive session. We need a motion to meet an executive session pursuant to Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A, for the following purposes: to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining with Brookline Educators Union, Unit A, Unit B, paraprofessional unit, if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining position of the committee and the chair so declares, and purpose 7, to approve executive session minutes from the April 30th, 2026 meeting. Is there a motion?
Moved.
To go into executive session?
Yes,
Jesse?
moved.
Second?
Second.
Laura, how do you vote?
I can turn the mic on. Yes.
I'm sorry, does he need to say not to return? We'll do that after. Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Yes.
Faiza, thank you.
Yes.
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 Yes. Okay, so do we need a motion for adjournment? I think so. No? We will not, everybody out there in television land, watching on big, hope you enjoyed the meeting tonight. See you again, and we will not be returning from our executive session. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Good job, Bob.
All right.